Hello, everybody. You're all very welcome to 10 by 9. Welcome back to 10 by 9 on Zoom, Zoom by 9. It's nice to see you. I hope you're all very well. I hope that your your home life is okay. And as everything begins, it seems to go back to a little bit more of lockdown. I hope that all is good for you. Paul's in Belfast, I'm in Fermanagh. It is great to see you. We have a fantastic evening of stories for you tonight. 9 stories. We were going to be in the black box, but then last week, with everything beginning to change, it all just made a lot more sense for us to minimize the possibility of any spread of this terrible Omicron. Omicron. People that I know were arguing about how to pronounce it properly. So there we are. We can all see each other. It's lovely to see your faces. And while we were glad in a certain sense to be able to get back to the black box, it's also lovely to be able to get back to doing 10 by 9 on Zoom, to be able to see people who live further afield, part of our 10 by 9 international groups of people, the diaspora of 10 by 9 folks who are in all kinds of places. I hope you're all very, very well, and I hope that nothing is strange with you. Paul and I've been living in New York since October, and I'll be there until May. I'm just home for a couple of weeks at Christmas. And Paul and I flew back on Friday from New York. Paul had been out visiting, and we had obviously tested negative before we flew. But then when I got back on Saturday, I began to not feel very well. And Saturday afternoon, I got some tests, and indeed, I do have the dreaded COVID. So I phoned my mother to tell her, and she said to me, "Do you have the new one now or the old one?" And my mother was particularly concerned that I should have the more fashionable version of Omicron, the latest up-to-date version. And so I am coming to you with the most fashionable COVID that is possible to have. I'm not sure when I had it. Amazing that whatever it was, it wasn't traceable on Friday, but by Saturday it was most definitely there. Anyway, it's not spreadable over Zoom, and if I do pass out at any point, sure, we'll have a good story to tell at another 10 by 9 when I have recovered. Our first storyteller doesn't come from too far away. It's Dave Thompson. And Dave, we're delighted that you sent in a story, and we're looking forward to hearing you. We'll invite you to unmute, and then we'll spotlight you, and then I'll let you know. I think say something in your dulcet tones there, Dave.
Hi there, how's it going?
Yeah, lovely. We can hear you. So I'll unmute and work away.
All right. Can I apologize in advance for my post-COVID cough? Just bear with me. So I was a primary school teacher for 20 years. So I want to share with you what I think was my finest hour, which came at Christmas. I taught P6, and most years, mid-December, we were invited to a carol party run by the School of Music here in Belfast. And this particular year, it was in Belfast's Waterfront Hall. Now, the carol party consisted of a youth orchestra and a mixture of music, both sacred and secular. The standard of music was excellent. It was provided by very, very talented young people. The only downside was the very tight control on proceedings. The music was very carefully managed. Fast, exciting songs were immediately followed by something a bit slower, like O Come, Emmanuel, so the children couldn't be whipped up into a full-on frenzy. Now, to be fair, they had a point. Putting 2,000 or 3,000 children into a packed space together just before Christmas and playing fast, festive songs, it's a bit like smoking at a petrol station. But the carol party was frequently led by one particular teacher who, while I'm sure she's a very nice person, on stage just became incredibly patronizing. She talked to everyone like they were an idiot. It was the one dark cloud, shall we say, on an otherwise happy occasion. Kind of like Herod in the Christmas story. So for the purposes of the rest of this story, I'm just going to refer to her as Mrs. Herod. Mrs. Herod would say things like, "Welcome, boys and girls, and all your lovely teachers. Are we all getting excited for Christmas?" It's that type of thing that really sets my teeth on edge. And things like, Could everyone make sure their coats are hanging over the back of their chairs so you can't be fidgeting with them during the carol party? Now, is everyone sitting up straight in their chairs? You can't sing well if you're not sitting up straight. Let's see everyone sitting up straight together. Very good. Now, we want to practice standing up together with very little noise. So when I do this, I want everyone to practice standing up together. Now that was quite good, but I still heard some chairs scraping, so try not to do that. Now, when I do this, everyone is going to sit down again. So now, let's try standing up properly just one more time. And then there'll be things like, now on this song, you're allowed to clap along. Isn't that exciting? But you're only allowed to use 2 fingers to clap lightly like this. 2 fingers, everyone. And I'd be in my seat thinking, 2 fingers, everyone. Mrs. Herod's relentlessly patronizing tone made the carol party less of a party, slightly more like corrective therapy. The worst part, however, was when Mrs. Herod interacted with cuddly Colin. Now, listening to a patronizing person is one thing, but watching them flirt is a whole new level of discomfort. Now, I want to introduce you to someone very special. This is Colin, and Colin is our conductor. Why don't you give him a little round of applause with 2 fingers? He's awfully cute, isn't he? And I let you into a secret. We all call him Cuddly Colin. Cuddly Colin is on stage and trapped, smiles and waves. And just to make Colin even more cute and cuddly, I think we should give him a Santa hat, don't you? None of my class respond. No one responds. Mrs. Herod now produces a Santa hat and proceeds to put it on Cuddly Colin's head, giving him a little hug. It is awkward. Children are really good at sensing awkward. Some of my class are looking at me as if to say, is this all right? From the row behind me, my classroom assistant leans forward and says quietly, is there a helpline Colin could phone? We sing carols, we sing Rudolph, we clap along lightly with 2 fingers. We are all well entertained. The carol party finishes. We are heavily patronized, but otherwise happy. 2,000 school children can't leave the waterfront together, however. So let's all sit quietly and wait for our bus. And so we wait. We are upstairs in one of the little pods that the waterfront is comprised of, kind of like a little space pod, a little box that you all sit in. We are the second space pod from the stage. I don't know who, but someone says, wouldn't it be fun to start a Mexican wave? I think about it. The shape of the waterfront hall, Belfast, is a horseshoe, and it's ideal for a Mexican wave. Will we? I ask my class, pretty much just waiting for permission. There is no time to waste. Classes are leaving, so we have to act fast. I go to Space Pod 1 and I approach the teacher, a gentleman imbued with festive spirit. You can tell this because he's sitting with his arms crossed, staring vacantly into space. I say to him, if we start a Mexican wave, do you think your class would be up for continuing it? He seems a bit startled and confused and says, what? Never worry, I say, and I talk to his class directly. Hey, you lot, if my class start a Mexican wave, could you continue it? They were enthusiastic. I returned to my seat. My class are buzzing. The other class are now half in, half out of their seats, watching us craning like meerkats. Ready? Go. My side of the space pod starts the Mexican wave. It ripples across the pod and across the aisle to the other class and dies. The other side of the auditorium do not appear to have noticed what we are doing. Some of my class are disappointed. Look, it'll take a few goes, I say, once more. And for a second time, the wave ripples and dies. Some of the pupils at the front are now waving over at the other classes on the other side of the hall. 1 or 2 yell out something, and I'm a bit worried that this might attract the attention of Mrs. Herod. because to be honest, I'm a little scared of Mrs. Herod. Let's give it another try, I say. And for a third time, our wave ripples. And for a few seconds, nothing happens until suddenly one little bloke opposite us rises to his feet like the first slave to say, I am Spartacus, or the kid at the end of the Dead Poets Society who climbs on his desk, or that lone protester that stood in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square. And to be honest, that last one's pushing it a bit. But he flings his arms in the air and sits down again. And it takes guts to throw caution to the wind and prepared to be a one-man Mexican wave. So wherever you are in the world now, sir, I salute you. But he is not alone. A few seats over, another pupil rises, and then another. My class and the class next to us collectively go, yes, in a manner usually reserved for being told that PE is after lunch or the announcement of a half day. A steady stream of children trickles around the waterfront hall. Not many, but these early adopters are enough to see the wave return to my class. And when it reaches us, we leap from our seats, hands high in the air, and whoop loudly, as do the class next to us. And this sends shock waves through the hall. It alerts all the other children in the upper floors to what's going on. They are now primed and ready to jump up and whoop because our noise has granted them permission. The ground floor kids look up in wonder and jealousy to watch a fully formed Mexican wave circling the space pods of Belfast waterfront again and again. On stage, the pupils in the youth orchestra watch with enjoyment. The music teachers watch with concern. I was busy enjoying myself. I wasn't looking for Mrs. Herod, and I wonder now what she might have been doing. Panicking, I would imagine. Panicking, I hope. Emergency scenarios for carol parties probably didn't cover this type of event. And in time, she comes back to the stage and steps up to the microphone. Can I have your attention, please? She begins. And at first she is ignored because let's face it, who wants to be patronized when you can be part of a Mexican wave? But she continues to talk, and with the help of the teachers in the hall, order is restored and the Mexican wave dies out. Now, that was very nice, very creative. Now, all the buses are queued up outside the hall, so we'll be calling you out school by school. You need to sit quietly and listen for your school name. My class begged me to let them start the wave again, and I realize I have a choice. I can become a living legend or be a responsible adult. I weigh up my options, and while the legend thing is attractive, I realize that deep down, I am too scared of Mrs. Herod, too unnerved by what has clearly damaged cuddly Colin, and so I comply. My class display their disappointment, but they too are obedient. There's a time for everything, I tell them sagely. We reached a climax and now it's over. And then I turn and I raise an eyebrow to my classroom assistant. Around the hall, there are still some children randomly leaping out of their seats, hands in the air, lone Mexican wavers. We have unleashed a spirit of rebellion. Christmas is a wild thing that cannot be contained. Our school is called. We get on the bus and we lustily sing the 12 Days of Christmas at the top of our voices all the way back to class.
Thanks very much. What a great story. Thanks, Dave. Do you have any calls to interact with Mrs. Herod anymore?
No, since I stopped teaching, no. Although funny, the last time I told that story, there was someone in the audience who said, I know who that is. And they did. They named her.
Oh, brilliant. Is she on your Christmas card list? And even more importantly, are you on hers?
No, I don't. I think it was probably good that we didn't interact.